Hi there, thanks for joining me. This is Jeanette Comerford and this is my Christmas series for 2018. Today I have this sweet card to share with you, and I created this little Christmas scene by using two sets from Fawn. I used the Holiday Helpers and the Christmas Dream stamp sets, and I really love how it turns out. It's cozy and warm and is going to be such a fun Christmas card to send out. Now when I create a card with this many images, I like to lay them all out on the card base first to make sure that I don't have too many images. Sometimes I realize I don't have enough images, but it gives me a nice idea of how everything is going to fit onto the card. Then I just take some Nina cardstock, I lay them into my MISTI and ink them up using Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. And I like to use a MISTI because I like to stamp a couple of times and make sure I get really nice dark impressions. So I'm just going to make sure that I have all the little stamps I need. That little stocking, I know that I want 3 stockings on the fireplace, so I'm stamping it another 2 times. Now I'm going to start the coloration, and you can see the marker numbers that I'm using are across the scene there for you. And this is a very quick coloration with the Copic markers because they're so small, these images. It doesn't take a whole lot of coloring, and I don't use like for the very tiny areas, I don't use a lot of markers, maybe 1, maybe 2. So you can see I did their hair and their faces. I'm going to start doing the little girl's outfit. I decided I wanted her to be in red, but I wanted it to be more of a pinky toned red. So that is why I chose this particular Copic marker trio, because there's a little bit more pink in it. And I'm just going to color that up. And you'll see throughout the card that anytime I'm coloring anything red, I will be using these same 3 markers. Going to color their little legs. I had forgotten to color them before. Then I'm going to turn to the little boy's suit, and I decided that since she was in sort of red that I wanted to make him in green, so I picked out a trio of markers that I thought would give a nice bright green for him. And again, anytime you see me using green to color other things, it'll be these markers. I like to keep like if I'm coloring reds, I like to keep the same color of reds throughout the card. It makes the card more cohesive and not as distracting as if I had many shades of different colors. So I'll keep up with the coloration here. I'm going to do their belts and their little buckles. For the little trim on their hats, I'm just dotting some cool gray markers just to give the impression that it's a little fuzzy. Then I'm going to start doing the Christmas tree. I'll do the star first. And I will be covering this up later on with some Nuvo, I guess it's glitter it's called. Anyways, I'll share that at the end. For the tree, I'm just going to base the entire tree first in my lightest green color. Then I'm going to take my mid-tone and I'm just drawing little lines from the top of each section downwards. And when that's done, I'm going to let it dry, because if I try to put another color on, they'll just all sort of blend together and you won't get the pine needle effect. I'll color the trunk of the tree here with some browns. Then I will move on to the wrapping paper, and again this sort of aqua blue color I think looks really nice with this shade of green and shade of red that I used. And anytime I'm going to be coloring anything aqua, I will be using these markers. I changed it up, and for my lightest marker I used G00, and I really liked how that looked. Since I have my aqua markers out, I will just color up a couple of the presents and the bows and everything while I have the marker out. Now I can go back to that tree because the ink has dried, and with the darker green marker I will just draw in some more pine needle lines. And you can see the lines, they don't sort of blend in with the rest of the colors. And then I'll just lightly blend the bottom a little bit so you don't see a harsh sort of finish to each of the lines. Then I'll go in and start coloring the ornaments, and again using the same reds I used for the little girl elf suit, trying to make sure that I'm not going to have any two of the same colors touching each other. So I'm going to use red, and then I'm going to switch to the aqua, put those in. Going to color some of the balls yellow. I did switch out the yellow marker to Y15 just to give a brighter yellow. Then I colored in the rest of the balls with the green. I'll move over to the stockings. I'm going to have one red stocking, one green stocking, and one sort of more pink stocking. And again, while I have the colors out, I will just finish off some of the presents using those same colors. Put a red bow on this one, and I decided to color the present yellow. Again, I'm just keeping all those same colors going so that even though there's a ton of stamped images, your eye is not going to go like crazy looking at too many colors. I'll color in the milk and cookies here. Such a sweet little stamp set. I can't believe the amount of little images you get in this stamp set. I'm going to move to the fireplace now. So I first colored in the flames with some oranges and some yellows. You can see those here. And then I darkened it all up with some cool grays. So you can still certainly see the glow of that yellow behind the gray. But again, it just makes it look more like a real fireplace. So for the stone of the fireplace, I'll be using some warm grays. You can see me sort of just tracing all the little brick and mortar lines there. Darken them up a little bit. And then I'll just draw some little lines from the side of each of the bricks towards the center. And then I will switch to a cool gray marker. So warm gray and cool gray, to me, when I combine them like this, it looks more like real stone. Then I will do the mantle and I'm not even sure, the little thing on the bottom that the flame is sitting on. Do those with a darker, warm gray marker. I think I used W5 there. And then I'll just blend everything out. So I'm just going to continue again, coloring up the rest of the images I stamped. I'm not using any new markers. I decided to color the rug red, trying to be mindful of how everything is going to look together. And then once all the components were colored in, I popped it onto the papers onto the plate of my Big Shot. Underneath the plate I have a magnetic platform, and I find if I sort of place the dies and secure them down with the post-it tape, having that magnetic platform underneath just is an extra sort of safeguard to make sure that nothing shifts around when I'm die cutting. So I think with the exception of the stocking, everything was die cut, and then I just had to die cut those two extra stockings. So I'm using this frame, I'll link it below, and I wanted to create a background. So I cut some craft cardstock here with the same frame and sort of just cut it not in half, maybe in a third. I'm passing it through this plate. It's a Sizzix texture plate. I will try to find it. But you can see it gives a nice texture to that paper, and it sort of looks like a wood floor. And then for the wall, I'm just going to use this aqua color, but to give it a little bit more interest, I am going to use the Swiss Dots folder, embossing folder from Sizzix. And then I will just sponge a little bit of white onto that, and the dots will pick up the white and just give a little bit of contrast. I'll put a little bit of white on the floor there. I realized I was on the wrong side. To flip it over and redo it. And then I'm going to sponge in a little bit of sand here just to make the floors look a little bit more realistic. Now, you certainly don't have to do that extra step. If you just want to cut a piece of craft cardstock and a piece of blue cardstock, that's fine, but I'm trying to use all my older supplies. Just going to make sure that that's a good height. I'll just glue it onto that little piece there. And by cutting those papers with the same die that I'm using, it ensures that everything lines up. I will just trim the excess there, and now I have a little floor. I thought I was going to use that blue cardstock for the base, but I found it was too dark, so I created a card base out of the aqua instead, and I like that a bit more. I'm not popping anything up. I'm not putting any dimension onto this, so I'm just going to glue down my little frame right onto the card base, and then adhere that little piece that is the floor and the wall. And then again, I will start laying out all my components. You can see that some of the images are overlapping. They're not sitting within the confines of that frame. I really like when some of the components sort of sit outside the frame. I think that looks really nice. You see that little roll of wrapping paper has like rolled off onto the frame. I really like that. So right now I'm just making sure that everything is where I wanted it to be, and then I'll start gluing down everything that's sort of at the back. So the fireplace and the tree and the little carpet there. Get those down, and then I can start building my scene. I'm using Nuvo glue. Again, if you've watched any of my videos, you know how in love I am with this glue. And I'm using my little tweezers to precisely place everything where I want them to be. And that little block, or that sort of long block, I'm using that just to sort of weigh down the images while they dry. I was trying to be really careful when I was placing all of these images so that the little elfin boy was not going to totally cover the flames of that fireplace. So you can see that I made sure that part of it was showing. I'm going to line up the stockings now, put those on. So I'm lining them up right underneath that sort of mantle. And then I have this ribbon, which comes with the Christmas Dream set. And I'm going to place that on the mantle, dress it up a little bit more. I'm going to add the milk and cookies over to the side. I realized after I'd done this that something was missing on the mantle, so I decided at that point I was going to have to stamp something else for the mantle. I'm going to put those presents and I'm going to have them extend past the edge of the frame again. Put my little elf boy, making sure that I'm not covering all the flames. For the wrapping paper, I think it would look really cute as well if you drew lines, sort of made it plaid. I decided just to add a few white dots onto it to give it a little bit more interest. So he's going to be holding the nice list. And originally I thought she was going to be holding the scissors. That's what I had planned. But I realized when I put them there, I didn't really like how it looked. You can see I put them there, and then I didn't like it. So I decided I was going to put the scissors on the floor. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to have to stamp something else. I ended up choosing a little mug of cocoa. I thought that was nicer for her to be holding. So I just stamped the cocoa for her to be holding and that little teddy bear to put up on the mantle. So even though I had planned the whole card out, when it came to the end, I did have to do a couple of things just to tweak it to make it look better. And I'm really happy with how it ended up looking. That teddy bear is so sweet on the mantle, and I think the cocoa is like the nicest little touch. So I'll just glue those down. And then I'm just going to take some Nuvo glitter. I'm going to use I think it's called Honey Gold for the star. I'm going to be putting that on the Christmas tree star. And I will use what is it called now? Just a moment. It is called the White Blizzard glitter drops. So I'm going to put that on everything else. On the cocoa mug, on the glass of milk, on the little scotch tape, and then on each of the ornaments. And this just gives such a nice glossy, glittery look. There's my card completed. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. And if you would like to check out the supplies and the links, that'll be found below this video on YouTube, or you can check out my blog. And here are a few other cards from different series. You might be interested in watching them. And don't forget to subscribe so that you won't miss my next video. Again, thanks for watching.